a little bit below VWAP on the day. Um, yeah, I'm going to be very interested to see if gamma neutrals on both chains move a bit closer to spot, because this looks like an awful lot of profit taking and repositioning for the downside. So, yeah, let's look for like skew to steepen tonight. It looks like we saw some uh, continued drop in VIX. So, yeah, I guess I would look for skew to steepen and then maybe see if any of the gamma above spot grew, and then see if any of the supportive gamma under spot fell off. But boring fucking day. Yeah, very flat. Realized volatility obviously going to come down on literally doing nothing, and I think that's kind of the point here. It's just get realized vol crushed out before we go into the CPI print and the Fed decision next week. This puts us at 67, 66 on ES, still failing to get back to that all-time high, and definitely setting us up for a retest to the downside on a loss of 67.50 towards this trend that we just broke out of, and then given the time frame, maybe a retest of the prior week close around 6,700. Definitely failing to get any kind of substantial support today, though, for continued upside moves. Dollar continued to climb, which drove a pullback in gold on the news that Japan has elected its first female prime minister, who has a very, very loose fiscal and monetary policy outlook, reminiscent of the Abenomics days, to which she is a supporter. And obviously, that push down on yen, pushing back up on the dollar, opening up the carry trade a little bit. And then, but we're still seeing yields fall, which is a little bit strange, especially with the dollar now having some support to the upside. But gold sold off about 5%. We see silver down 7.65%. So really a ton of profit taking there. Oil, however, coming back in and pushing things up a little. Agricultural stuff pretty flat. We see that continued push and near-term correlation starting to fall off into the end of the day here, alongside the 3-month correlation. That might be moving a little bit more after hours. We do have Netflix tonight. I don't know where they're sitting. Looks like they're down pretty heavily, which is interesting. Um, Possibly subscriber losses or something. I'll have to look at what's going on. But right now, Netflix down about 6% in the overnight so far. So obviously missed on either revenues or EPS. Revenues were the thing that was estimated a little bit higher there. Um, not the biggest stock in NQ by any means, but definitely could be significant for other tech services. Um, Still no significant move in bond vol. We don't see 3-month correlation turning back up yet. Forward yield on volatility falling to -6%. However, the 10-2 continuing to climb, now at 22.14, which isn't too far off of where it was when it spiked. So that bond volatility, like that, the bond demand is still pushing up demand for long vol. Um, Carry trade looks pretty flat, which it shouldn't be, actually. We should see leverage picking up given the spread in the dollar and yen is widening. And the fact that we're not is maybe a little bit strange. There's a lot of strange things about this move. Big move up in skew, which could be short puts closing. Um, but might also just be lack of interest in long puts. Looks like 20-day moving average is roughly about the same as the 50. So breadth picking up a little bit yesterday, but I wouldn't say the improvements are really all that substantial, and still about 58% of the index over its 200-day moving average. But both moving up in line. I mean, we generally bullish would look like, more and more stocks um, over their 20-day moving average with the 50-day trailing, something like that, is the kind of move we would want to see. Right now they're about neck and neck, so. And I don't think today moved that around too much. I know YM performed okay, but it looks like Russell, NQ, and ES all down in after hours here. Another decline in correlation between VX and cash VIX. But these aren't very steep declines. We're not seeing short vol just pile back in or anything and push back on that correlation. So we're seeing some short vol, but more stable, a stabilizing effect than any big, significant swings in short volatility. Looks like Fed fund futures continue to price up cuts in March and June, but looks like January is still pretty flat. 10-2s at about 50, starting to reinvert actually. And so we got SOFR at 4.16, IORB at 4.15. So the spread between the secured overnight rate and the Federal Reserve's IORB rate is just about 1 point right now. So not too much arbitrage there anymore. Looks like leverage continued to pick up a little bit today, but still below the prior high. And on the technical side of things, and we've got a lower high here and a slight rejection. I would still want to see us lose 6,700 to the downside to confirm that this is breaking down. However, this is not yet bullish. Over the last 2 weeks, I mean, we've got a moderate recovery, but this is still like, bearish consolidation that has yet to have any kind of failure or retest the prior low or make a new low or anything like that. And so I would still say that 20 moving average is something to pay attention to. Falling back into it or falling below it, especially given Netflix's earnings tonight and possibly, Tesla's earnings tomorrow, we might be able to see somewhere below that by the end of the week. And then if, CPI is hotter than expected, removing some probability for Fed cuts at the October December meeting, then we could see some reigniting of volatility on the front end and more downside. As we move into the negotiations at the APEC or Asia Pacific business conference where Trump is supposed to be meeting with Xi and before November 1st's deadline. Yeah, then kind of most of the things from yesterday that were up today were pretty flat or down. Google losing a pretty significant chunk of market cap due to the announcement of the OpenAI browser. We see JPM pulling back about 174 points, Wells Fargo down, BlackRock taking a pretty big hit. So, some big moves in finance. Tesla down about 1% today. Amazon still kind of moving up a bit, but health technology also taking a little hit. And then some outperformance from Coca-Cola. Consumer non-durables pretty flat. Consumer services, like I said yesterday, is starting to see some improvement. And so that might be one of those signs that we were looking for of some sector rotation on a bounce. That's somewhat interesting. I think Netflix might affect that a little bit, but we'll have to see what happens tomorrow. And then commercial services also doing pretty well here. Utilities, producer manufacturing, mostly down. 3M had a really good day. I think we talked about that a little bit yesterday too. And then, yeah, that was about it. So, beyond prolapsing to $4, still got to get above 550. But yeah, it's looking interesting. No problem, little orphan Danny. Thanks, guys. All right, everybody have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow. Later.